Okay, we're gonna do 30% of 10 using a tape diagram. So the first thing that you need to do is set up the tape diagram. So you draw a piece of, it looks like a piece of tape, and then this is gonna be 100% right here. So the top part is the percents, and this would be 0%. Okay, and then we need to find 30%. So 30%, we're just gonna estimate is to be about right here. And then what we have to do is we have to figure out what 30% is of 10. So the whole is 10, or 100% is 10. So how do I get from 100 to 30? Well, I can't really do that. So what I need to do is make a different jump. So I would take right here, if I could get to, let's say, 10%, then I would be able to get to 30%, okay? So how do I get from 10 or 100% to 10%? I divide by 10. So 100% divided by 10 is 10%. So now what I have to do is I have to do the bottom. So whatever I do to the top, I got to do to the bottom. So 10 divided by, and since I divided by 10 on the top here, I have to divide the bottom by 10. So divided by 10. So I have 10 divided by 10 is 1. So now I have to make this jump here. So 10 to 30%. So 10% to 30%. So I make that jump by multiplying by what? 10 times 3 is 30. Okay? So now I have to, if I multiply from here to here to get, and I multiplied 10 times 3. So if I multiply by 3 here, same thing. To get this distance, I have to multiply by 3. So what's 1 times 3? That's 3%. Okay? So let's go on to the next one. So if I have 110 and I want to find, let's say, 15%. So this is your homework. So it's 15% of 110. So I'm going to do my my tape diagram. Okay? So I have to set it up. So I'm trying to figure out what 15% is. So I'm going to set up my percents. So percents go on top. So this is 100%. This would be 0%. This would be 0. And then what's the total? The total is 110. So I have to figure out 15%. So this is 15% here. All right, so how can I get to 100 to 15? That's not a simple divide, right? So I have to make a different jump. So if I could get to 10, can I get to 15? Yeah, it's 1.5, but let's see if we can figure out a different one. What if I got to 5 here? Could I get to 15? Yeah, so let's go ahead and try that. So if I got to, I need to find 5%. So 100 to 5, I would need to divide by 20. So whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. So to get to 110, I need to, or if I start at 110, I divide by 20 to get what 5% is. Okay? Well, what's 110 divided by 20? Well, I'd have to do it over here. So how many times does 20 go into 110? That would be 5 times. So I'd be left over with 100. I would need to put a decimal here and bring down my 0. 20 goes into 100 5 times. So I get 5.5. Okay, so that 5.5 is going to go on the bottom. So I'm going to put 5.5. So is that my answer? Is that 15% of 110? No, that was 5% of 110. So what is 15%? So that means I got to get from 5% to 15%. So what do I do to the top to get from 5 to 15? I need to multiply by 3. So the same thing as I have to multiply the bottom by 3. So I have 5.5 times 3. So I have 5 times 3 is 15. Regroup. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 1 more is 16. I now need to count how many spaces are behind the decimal. That's 1. So that means that I need to move my decimal over 1 time. So that would mean that 15% of 110, so here's my 15%, is 16.5. And that's how you do 15% of 110 using a tape diagram.